I want us to look at one of the most encouraging chapters and verses that we can find in the New Testament, and that's in Romans 8. If you're looking for one chapter just to read over and over again, to be reminded and refreshed about the truth of Jesus Christ, Romans 8 is where we can turn. But one of the more famous verses in Romans 8 is found in 28 through 30. But in verse 30, there's a highlighting of how we can see our salvation and the path by which we grow into our salvation in a new light. In Romans 8, verse 30, it talks about the path of salvation. It says, "Those whom he predestined, he also called. Those whom he called, he also justified. And those whom he justified, he also glorified." Now I want to look at that last phrase because for those of us who have studied theology and we've dived kind of deep into the way of salvation, we know that the New Testament speaks of salvation primarily in three ways. There's a past tense, justification. There's a present tense, being saved, of sanctification. But there's also a future tense of glorification when we'll fully be saved with Jesus in heaven. But here we see Paul move from justified to glorified, both in past tense terms. Now, is he neglecting sanctification? I would say by no means, because earlier he speaks to sanctification as a value for the Roman church to follow. He's actually talking about a way we can view sanctification, because too often we view it as this religious kind of trudging through life trying to make ourselves better. But here he's saying that we need to look at sanctification as achieving what has already been done inside of us in the gospel. He uses the past tense glorified, that there is a sense in which we have already been made glorious in Jesus Christ. And our path from justification and glorification, that idea of being sanctified, is really just living into the glory that is already given to us in Jesus. See, the New Testament calls us saints in Christ, tells us that we have been seated with him in the heavenly realms and glorified with him. And here we're called just to live into glory. Now, what would that look like? First, we need to reject an idea that we are just wicked and awful sinners. That's who we once were. Yes, sin still remains in us, but that's not how God sees us in Christ. We need to embrace the identity of being glorified. Second, we need to really get an idea of what it will be like in heaven. What will we think about? What will we love? What will we live like? To dream about that heavenly life of the kingdom that is to come. And then, as Jesus encouraged us to pray, ask him that as his will is done in heaven, that his will would be done on earth in us, so that we would live in the glory that we're called to in Christ. That every day we may look more and more like Jesus. That is the aim that he has for us, of being conformed to Christ. It is his greatest good, as he speaks to in Romans 8:28. So would you hear today that you've been justified by faith, but you've also already been glorified? So live into the glory that is found in Jesus Christ.